and Public Committee of the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District. I am Margaret McNiven, Chair of the committee. This meeting is now called to order. It is 1:30 p.m. on June the 13th, 2023. This meeting is being held in person at the District Administrative Office and by teleconference pursuant to Government Code Section 54953. Members of the public can attend and participate in the meeting in person or via Zoom. Instructions for submitting public comments are available on the meeting agenda. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Director Christine Tucker,
Here.
Chair McNiven.
Here.
Thank you. And Director Sear is absent.
May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Director Christine Tucker,
Yes.
Director McNiven.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 2-0.
All right. Are there any comments from members of the public on matters within the jurisdiction of the district, but not on the agenda?
We do not have any public comments.
Great. So let's approve the minutes. Approve the April 25th, 2023 Legislative Funding and Public Affairs Committee meeting minutes. Clerk, do we have any public comments on this item?
We do not.
May I have a motion to approve the April 25th, 2023 minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Maybe I'll second. May I have a motion, please?
Director Christine Tucker,
Yes.
Director McNiven.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 2-0.
All right. Our business for tonight is a review of the basic policy for the coastside protection area. Review the policy development process from, I'm not sure. Well, may we have the staff presentation, please?
Just give us a minute.
Oh, yes. All right. Good afternoon, LAFPAD members. I'm Susanna Chen, Assistant General Manager. I will present the item to you today. And let's start with take a look at our presentation overview. And I will start with giving you some background information, including the overviews of our basic policy, the Coastal Service Plan. And I also want to give you an update on policy development efforts that are related to the coast side. Then I will pause to allow you some opportunity to ask questions on the background information. And after that, I will present the proposed implementation plan for incorporating coastside protection area into the basic policy. And I also want to touch on next steps. And then we will have another opportunity for you to ask questions. Then we can open up for public comments and bring it back to LAFPAD for your deliberation and comment. And the general manager's recommendations for these items are review and provide feedback on the proposed process for incorporating the coastside protection area into the basic policy in a manner consistent with the Coastal Service Plan and forward the proposed process to the full board of directors for their review and approval. The general manager also recommends forwarding a recommendation to the full board of directors to form an ad hoc committee pursuant to board policy 1.04, board committee, to guide the process of incorporating the coastal protection area into the basic policy. Okay, now let's take a look at the basic policy. The district was formed in 1972 by the voter. Last year, we just celebrated our 50 years anniversary. A couple years after the formation of the district, the board of directors approved a fundamental overarching policy covering all major policy areas for the district, known as the basic policy. So that was adopted in 1974. As the district's fundamental policy, the basic policy served as the district's constitution, if you will, providing the highest policy guidance on how to fulfill our missions. The district's missions is multifaceted. It includes to acquire and preserve a regional greenbelt of open space land in perpetuity, protect and restore the natural environment, and provide opportunities for ecologically sensitive public enjoyment and education. And that's the district's basic missions. In 1996, a little over 20 years after the original adoptions of the basic policy, the district initiated a process to engage our stakeholders and the general public to update the basic policy. And that process didn't yield significant changes to our priorities or our practices, and the effort was focused on updating or clarifying the existing policies and also bringing them more in line with the current practice and current needs. And the board adopted the revisions in 1999, and that was the last comprehensive update to the basic policies. And about basic policy, because it is high level, overarching in nature, it references other specific policies, which I will talk a little bit more about later. Now let's take a look at the district's policy framework. It starts with our missions, and the mission is supported by the basic policy, which provides overarching guidance on how to carry forward our missions. The basic policy document itself is pretty streamlined, very concise. It's a relatively small document. It contains 3 sections, including an introduction. It includes our mission statement, and also have policy statements covering 5 key policy areas, including the open space land preservations, open space management, interagency relationships, public involvement, and administrations. And because the basic policy is high level, we over time developed other policies that is more specific for a particular policy area and providing more policy guidance for that specific area. Example of those policies are our acquisition policies, our resource management policy, good neighbor policies, and many other district rules and regulations. And all of those second-tier policies are under the basic policy, and they are in alignment with the basic policies. Now, we will take a look at the coastside service plan. And in 2003, the board approved the a service plan for the San Mateo coastal annexation area. The service plan established policy, guidelines, and commitment governing district activities and services within the coastal protection area. This map shows the coastal protection area. It covers about 140,000 acres in San Mateo County. The map on the right-hand side shows the coastal protection area within the blue boundary. The map on the left-hand side also shows the coastal protection area, but also gives you in perspective how the coastal protection area in relations to the overall district boundary. And the coastal protection area is also called coastal annexation area or coastal surface plan area. So as part of the annexations, we expanded our coastal missions to include agriculture. The coastal missions as defined in the service plan states that to acquire and preserve in perpetuity open space land and agricultural land of regional significance, protect and restore the natural environment, preserve rural character, encourage viable agricultural use of land resources, and provide opportunities for ecologically sensitive public enjoyment and educations. So the additions to our basic missions are underlined here, and those are the elements specific to the coastal protection area. The service plan provided some guiding principle to help provide guidance on meeting the coastal missions. The coastal mission included preserving agricultural land, encouraging agricultural use, and also preserve the rural character of our coastal. This set of guiding principle covers 8 policy areas. It's listed here, including land acquisitions, services and funding, agriculture, forestry, representation, planning and development, partnership, and land use. And this guiding principle can be categorized into 3 groups. The first group is permanent policies. There are a total of 6 permanent policies in the service plan. And the permanent policies are policy statements that are critical to the district's ability to operate effectively within the coastal protection area. And those are the policies that we will carry forward over time. I just want to give you an example what a permanent policy looks like in the service plan. One of the examples is that the district shall only acquire land or interest in lands from willing sellers. The power of eminent domain will not exercise within the coastal protection area. So that is one of the permanent policies included in the service plan. Another group of guiding principles are guidelines, and there are a total of 51 guidelines in the service plan. Guidelines inform decision-making and the formation and operation of district programs within the coastal protection area. Guidelines, it clearly communicate to our general public the district's commitment on the coastal. And one of the examples of a guideline in the service plan is the district will develop a set of basic policy for the coastal protection area. This is the guideline that why we are here today. And I also want to point out that out of the 51 guidelines in the service plan, this is the only remaining outstanding guideline. The last group of guiding principle is implementation actions. And those are the actions that explains how the district will operate within the coastal protection area. And they associated with the permanent policy or guidelines. One of the example of implementation action in the service plan is this particular one is related to the no eminent domain policy, and it states that this policy, referring to the no eminent domain policy, will be referenced in every governing document and proposed by the district in connection with the coastal annexation area. So those just some example. And again, there's 36 of them in the surface plan. Now I wanted to give you some updates on the policy development related to the COSI over the last 18 years. And since 2004, the district has been consistently follow the service plan to implement our missions on the COSI. A couple recent example of our work following the service plan is the acquisitions of the Cloverdale branch properties and also the planning and development of the Prisma to the Sea Trail parking and trails. And by the way, I just wanted to give you an update that we are actually going to close ESCO for phase 1 of the Cloverdale tomorrow, and then phase 2 on Thursday. And by the end of this year, over 5,000 acres of coastal land will be transferred to public ownership, permanently protected. So back to our topic, and over the last 18 years, to better guide the activities and services within the COSI protection area, we have invested significant efforts to develop, updates, amend policies to in specific area that are consistent with the service plan. And those updates provides better guidance on us carrying out our work on the coast side. And I want to highlight some of those efforts. And the first one is our vision plan and measure AA. And in 2000, you're probably familiar with that. In 2012, we initiated the visioning process to engage our partners, our stakeholders, and the general public to look ahead 40 years and develop a vision for the open space district. And that process yielded 54 priority actions. And priority actions are a group of capital projects organized by geographic area within district boundaries. And the top 25 priority actions was used to inform the capital expenditure plan of subsequent funding measures. And in 2014, the district voters approved the Measure AA, which is a 30-year, $300 million general obligation bond to fund majority of the top 25 priority action projects. And in the service plan, it calls for us to look for funding measures to provide a higher level of service within the coastal protection area. And the vision plan, the Measure AA work, fulfill that requirement or that commitment. Within the top 25 priority actions, 6 of the priority actions are within the coastal service plan area. And additionally, 2 regional portfolio have very strong focus on the coast side. Another policy that we work on is the good neighbor policies, and that is our commitment to build and maintain good relationship with all adjacent neighbors. We updated that policy in 2007 to meet the service plan requirement. And currently we are doing another update to make sure our policy language are relevant and current with the current needs and priorities, aligned with the current priorities. We also amended our grazing management policies in 2021 to add new policy and associated implementation measures to address conflicts between native predators and conservation grazing livestock in district preserve. Another very important policy work that we are working on is the development of the ag policies. We started that process in 2019, and the goal is to outline the district's role in agriculture within the region and develop guidelines to guide our agricultural conservation partnership work and the management of our agricultural lands. The work is still ongoing through a really robust public engagement process. And we anticipating to bring the draft document back to the board for you review in summer of this year. Another really important policies that we work on associated with the COSI is the resource management policy. That policy was originally adopted in 1994. And we see multiple updates with the latest one in 2022. It covers all district policies, including the COSI protection area, and it serves as the principal policy governing resource management issues. Last but not least is our coastal management plan, and that plan was developed and reviewed by the board in 2022. The plan identifies actions to be taken by the district to build organizational capacity to support the expanded COSI operations. So now I talk a lot about the work that we have, the policy work we have done. Let's circle back to take a look at the district's policy framework. So after the coastal service plan adoptions, we now have a coastal missions that includes agricultures. We also have the coastal service plan that has provided policy guidance for our work on the COSI over the last 18 years. I also talk about a lot of policy work specific in specific policy area to provide better guidance on our work related to the COSI. An example of them is the vision plan, the MAA, the resource management policy, the good neighbor policy, and grazing policy and ag policies. So a lot of work put into that. So what is missing is basic policies that incorporated the COSI, coastal service plan, as one comprehensive policy guiding the district's work. So I'm going to pause here, a lot of information, and I want to see if you have any questions. And when we come back, and I will, after the Q&A, I will talk about how we can fulfill that commitment and to update the basic policy.
Zoe, have comments?
Yes, thank you, Susanna. Really interesting to kind of take this all in one place. I guess my question, I have a couple questions. The first would be, does the basic policy need to be reviewed or revised at all, or is it solid and good? So the initial basic policy.
That's a very good questions. And I will say that we have done a lot of, I mentioned, we have done a lot of policy work to update individual policies. As we doing those updates or did those updates, so we review the basic policies to see if the basic policy provides enough guidance for us to update those individual policies. A lot of our recent work proved that the basic policies is still relevant and provides adequate guidance for our works. And we have not found that we need to have a comprehensive update to our basic policies to provide guidance on those other policy updates, with the exceptions that I pointed out here, missing the coastal service plan area guiding principles.
So just jumping ahead a teeny bit, Susanna, based on what you just said, you know, I'm understanding that the approach that is kind of being looked at is to take a look at the existing basic policy and try to incorporate, let's see, what do you say here? Based on an early review of the existing basic policy, it may be possible to accomplish the objective by amending the current basic policy to incorporate the COSI protection area.
Right.
So I guess what my question would be, as part of that process, might there be holes that need to be filled in the existing basic policy, and would the process that you're, you know, kind of moving towards allow that, as well as the creation of the basic policy for the COSI?
This is Board Director Christine Tucker. This is Ana Ruiz, General Manager. We'll take a note of it, and there's different approaches to address that if it comes to be. And that is, we could, if it's a simple enough process, we can roll that into these updates and approvals by the board. Or if it's more complicated, we might want to take that as a second phase. And I say that only because the main objective right now and what we're trying to accomplish with this round of review and updates is to make sure that we have the coastside protection area incorporated or have a basic policy that reflects that area.
Mhm.
And so that's the main driver. But you know, if there is a gap or we see that we need to modify other language for the rest of the district or that applies to the entirety, then we can definitely look at that and see whether that's something we can fold in as part of this process, or if we might want to take a second phase or do that work as a second phase of this project. It just depends on the complexity of that.
Okay,
Yes, and I will talk a little bit more about the proposed process later. And just to chime into what Anna is saying, that because our focus is to incorporate the surface plan into the basic policy, the design of our process is focusing on the coast side. Our public engagement is also right now is focusing on the coast side. So if we find as part of this process of some gaps in our basic policies that has district-wide significance, that it may require us to do a broader community engagement process and community input process to weigh in on those particular areas. So that may require us to follow up with a phase 2 to this process.
okay, all right, thank you. I think one of the things that's in the back of my mind is kind of the cumbersomeness of our bifurcated mission. You know, the fact that we have two kind of separate mission statements that sometimes are difficult to convey to the public. And I guess I'm wondering whether we're going to end up now then with two basic policies that kind of mirror the two missions, that then it just feels like a lot of policy development as opposed to kind of giving it all a haircut and putting some things together. And I don't even know if that's possible, or maybe it's just because the district is growing, you know, with lands and expanded activities, whether a consolidation of some of these policies makes sense or not. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that very well. It just feels like what I don't want to see is a huge continuing proliferation of lots of individual policies that.
Yeah.
Right. And so what we're hoping to be able to do, but you know, we'll know for sure. We'll have more information as we dive deeper into this, is we have a sense that we may be able to incorporate the coastside protection area into the existing basic policy without creating two basic policies, one
it,
for
okay.
an area, one for the coastside, because there is so much overlap.
Yeah.
And so there may be a way to with clarity and simplicity, be able to roll in the coastside protection area and make sure that there is language that is particularly for that space, but then also reflect that there's a lot of policy in there that applies district-wide, and it includes the coastside protection area. So we'll know more as we go into this process a bit more. But that's the sense that we're getting as we're starting to look into the policy language a little bit more.
Yes. Oh, good. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have at this point, Director McNiven.
Thank you. I don't really have any questions. That was a great presentation, really cleared things up. I'm tending to agree with Director Kirsten Tucker, and because I noticed that Josh Hug is referring to because we're presenting at Woodside tonight,
Hmm,
and the mission statement, he referred to it as the braided mission statement.
right.
And I loved that. I thought that was, and that's the mission statement that I'm going to mention tonight is
Mhm.
the braided mission statement.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be fine because I think I like it. And if there's a way we could incorporate the coastal plan into the basic policy, that would be my way to go, but I don't know all the caveats at this point. So,
And that's what we're trying to do.
yes.
All right. Okay. So let's continue. I will present our proposed implementation plan. And as we kind of talk about, we are not starting from scratch. So our proposed process, it will start with reviewing the existing policy, review the current basic policy, and also compare the basic policy with the coastal service plan guiding principles and other coastal policies to identify policy gaps. And then we will develop the basic policy language to address the gap for our coastal protection area. And part of that, we're also incorporating those basic, the guiding principle in the service plan into our basic policies. So that is our first step. And once we have that, we will bring that draft language to the board first to get your initial feedback. And your initial feedback and comments will be incorporated into the draft document. And once we have that draft document, we're ready to take that out to the community to get their feedback. So we will start with the public outreach and input of that phase of our project, and we will get input in different ways. And here's list some of the ways that we at least we're thinking right now. It's going to be some one-on-one meeting with key stakeholders. Example of key stakeholders could be the elected officials, the community leaders. And we will also have focus meetings with specific stakeholders group. An example of those stakeholders group could be Farm Bureau, the community-based nonprofit groups, land trusts on the coast side, and other conservation-focused organizations. And we also wanted to present the draft language to governmental agencies, government-sponsored organizations within the coastal protection areas. And there's a lot of those agencies we are already working with and familiar with. And some of the examples we will go to the city of Half Moon Bay. We can present at the Ag Advisory Committee, the Mid-Coast Community Council, the Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council, and the county. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to engage them and share our draft language and get their feedback. And we also will host community meetings, both in person and virtually, to maximize the opportunity for the public to provide feedback. We will also use our website and to allow people to provide comments through our website. And we also have emails, phone calls, and mailings. And regarding mailings, I wanted to highlight talk a little bit about it because it's important. We plan to provide an initial postcard mailing to the coastal interested party list and stakeholders we identified throughout the process to inform them our first policy development public meeting. And this mailing notification will request people interested in this process, the development of this policy, to tell us how they want to be notified going forward. They have a choice of either receiving email notifications, if their email addresses are not already in our system, or they can specifically request paper mailing for future public engagement events and public meetings. We do anticipate the future notification beyond the initial mailing will largely do emails, but we also want to make sure for those that prefer paper mailing or don't have the means to get email, have the opportunity to get notifications. So I just wanted to list it here for the public that joining us today to know that there's this initial opportunity for them to let us know their communication preference. After we get the public's inputs, and we will incorporate the public inputs into the final draft, and we'll bring the draft back to the board, and board will have the final approval of those the policy updates. And because this is very important work, we are updating the district's guiding basic policies. We're updating the fundamental policies of the districts. So we want the more guidance from the board through this process. And we are proposing the board to form an ad hoc committee to guide the process. And the ad hoc committee will be comprised of 3 board members, and they will be appointed by board presidents with board consent. And the ad hoc committees will first work with staff to develop the draft policy language. And we're hoping that they will also support us as we present the draft policies to stakeholders and community members. Now, we now get to my last slide. It's to talk about the next steps. If the LAFPAC supports staff's recommendation or general manager's recommendations, we'll bring that to the full board for their approval. And if the board supports the approach, and we will be forming the ad hoc committee in summer of this year. And then we can start working on the policy development work. And we anticipate that work will take from summer of 2023 to spring of 2024. And then after that, we will bring the draft document to the public and get public's input. And that will happen right now, anticipating from summer of 2024 to winter of 2024. And we are hoping to wrap up the work by spring of 2025. So that concludes my presentations. I'm open for questions.
I do have some questions.
Okay.
Okay, ranging from easy to hard. I noticed that you have on here a website with comment form. So I'm assuming that means that there will be a web page or a portion of the website that's devoted to this policy update, and
Yes.
people can check in there and look at the timeline as usual. That's kind of how Midpen does things.
Yes.
wanted
Yes, and yes,
that.
and also an opportunity for them to provide comments. So there's
Perfect.
no time constraint, and they can submit comments.
Okay, and then kind of with regard to my earlier questions and comments, I'm assuming then that the kind of analysis, if you will, that our general manager was talking about with regard to the basic policy, and whether the COSI basic policy could be absorbed into that will happen in steps 1A and 1B. That's the review of the current basic policy and the development of draft basic policy language. But that's where that will happen. Is that right, Anna?
Yes, yes, yeah, with
That is-
guidance, if the board decided to form the ad hoc committee, and it will be with the guidance of the ad hoc committee.
Okay, good. And then my harder question, and this may just be because I don't understand very well, but there are a number, as you enumerated, a number of COSI policies in existence already, Susanna. We've got vision plan and measure AA, we've got good neighbor policy, grazing management, ag policy, resource management, all of that. How does the basic policy then incorporate all those? Are they?
So I can start, and then maybe if there's more that Susanna wants to add, she can.
Okay,
Susanna
please.
again. So as a reminder, the basic policy is the broad overarching language that is the umbrella for all the other detailed policies that come under it. Resource management policies, agricultural policy, grazing policy, et cetera.
Mhm.
So that broad overarching basic policy is going to be broader, higher level language that is overarching and that would need to remain consistent with the detailed policies that the board has already approved for the co-side. So any detailed guidelines, policies, direction would need to be embedded in those detailed policies that the board has already approved, or we can, if we find that we need to make an amendment, we can flag that. But the basic policy is going to be overarching and broad. Which again is why it's very likely, very possible that we can fold in the coastside protection area within the existing basic policy with some caveats, some specific language in there that maybe only references the coastside protection area. So does that clarify?
Oh, absolutely. That's kind of what I thought, but I just wanted to confirm. And then the basic policy refers to it refers to these individual, more detailed policies. I take it.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Just, I think my hope is that we make it simpler for people to navigate our policies and to understand where to go for the kind of information that they're looking for. So I have found it occasionally challenging to figure out where all the policies are and how they all link together. So perhaps some kind of an overall flow chart or something of that sort might actually be helpful as we draft this basic policy. Or maybe there is already something like that and I just haven't seen it yet, but.
We can certainly look at, I mean, we've had some, outlines like those in presentations, but we could probably put together something that's more public facing.
Yeah,
That's available. Yeah.
great. That's all I have. Great presentation. And I'm very much in favor of the formation of an ad hoc committee. I think that's a much more efficient and effective way to move forward with this.
So just one question.
Okay.
These policies that already exist, vision, good neighbor, grazing. I know the ag policy is not in the current one, but when you footnote these policies, okay, we already have a resource management policy
That's correct.
in
Yeah.
the basic policy.
Yes.
So would this be, could we incorporate this into that policy? Could we incorporate your need for could we incorporate the two resource management policies into one?
Actually, it's the same ones.
It's the
Yes,
same
what
one.
I'm talking about here is the same resource management policies that's actually referenced in our existing basic policies.
Oh,
And the resource management policies have been updated
yes.
over time.
Yes.
And because the basic policies reference to it, it does not necessarily bound to that versions that this basic policy was adopted as the resource management policies are being updated, and this basic policy refers to the latest versions of the
Yeah.
management policies. So, and I see us to follow the same formats and to update this basic policies. So right now, our basic policy already refer to some of the individual policies, and including the resource management policy. And
the good
we,
neighbor
as part of the
policy.
update,
Yes.
we can add the new policy, like the ag policies that was currently being developed and referenced in as part of our update. So we can follow the same formats.
A lot of work.
Yes.
I have no more comments.
All right.
There are
Nor do I. So let's see, what do we need to do here?
Public
comment?
comment.
Mhm.
Is there any public comment on this item?
We do have one oral public comment. Let me just get that ready,
Oh,
and it
wow.
will be Ron Sturgeon.
Ron.
Ron, if you can please go ahead and unmute yourself. Did you hear us, Ron?
Good afternoon.
Great,
Good
thank you.
afternoon.
Go ahead and start your timer. 1 second, please.
Oh.
Thank you. Why does it keep moving?
Can you hear me?
Yes, if you can just speak up a little bit louder, please.
Okay.
Great, thank
This
you.
is
You have
Ron
a minute.
Sturgeon in San Gregorio, and I would like to urge the subcommittee to forward the recommendation to the board regarding the formation of ad hoc committee. And yeah, I'm glad to see the district wrestling with its constitution. And I think it's maybe close to 20 years too late, overdue anyways. But I think it will be a productive process. And again, I urge the committee to recommend to the board the formation of the ad hoc committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment.
That is the only public comment we have.
Great. Are there any comments from the committee?
Madam Chair, I would forward a recommendation or make a motion to forward a recommendation to the full board of directors to form an ad hoc committee pursuant to board policy 1.04 to guide the process of incorporating the coastside protection area into the basic policy.
I second that. Let's see. Are we going to do 1 and 2 on our computer? We have review and provide feedback. We've already done that.
Mhm.
Perfect.
But I need your approval to forward that to the full
To the
board.
board.
Yeah.
right.
Right, so
Both 1 and 2, yeah.
I'll make a motion to forward both 1 and 2 to the full board.
I'll second that.
John.
Roll call,
Mhm.
please.
Director Christine Tucker,
Yes.
Director McNiven.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 2-0.
Great, thank you.
All right. Fabulous presentation, Susanna. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And on that note, this meeting is adjourned. It is 2:20.